Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So today we have Governor John Kasich from the state of Ohio running against President Trump in a general election. And John Kasich would be running as a Democrat. I did a video before where I ran him as an independent candidate. This time he's threatened to actually leave the GOP, and he said he would no longer support the party unless they fix themselves. So from that, he probably wouldn't become a Democrat, but this is just a scenario as if he did become a Democrat and did somehow win the nomination. And there's a lot new data out of Trump versus Kasich matchups, and I don't really fully agree with my past matchup with John Kasich running as an independent, mainly because of a couple factors. Kasich's popularity in the Republican Party has dropped down after he's recently spoken out against it. Him going against the president has also hurt him in some key states. However, there's not much really to say that's actually been a bold change. So a lot of the predictions will probably be similar in comparison. But then again, we have to factor in the Democratic vote. Last time he was running as an independent candidate, and overall that definitely could have helped him more than him running as a Democrat. And the reasoning behind that is the Democratic Party would probably not back him up compared to the normal states that would back him up as an independent. The Democrats, if they didn't run a candidate, they would probably just vote for him out of spite for President Trump. But him running as a Democrat would turn off a lot of those voters who normally would vote Republican, but that would have voted for John Kasich if he ran as an independent because they saw him as more of another conservative voice. But now that he's on the Democratic side, that kills off a lot of those voters. So when I did my Kasich versus Joe Biden prediction, I gave a lot of Kasich versus Joe Biden versus Donald Trump prediction. I gave Kasich like 2 or 3 states, and there's a reason for that. The reasoning is that I don't think John Kasich would be able to win an overwhelming majority with a Democratic candidate running, which is why I'm running him as a Democrat now to eliminate any vote splitting. So I'm just going to go through the map and show which states I think would vote for each candidate. So the West Coast I think will go to John Kasich. I don't think there's really any argument there. However, it could have gotten close just because Kasich isn't that Democratic candidate, but he'd also do better in some key states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, his home state, because he is getting a part of the Republican vote. While Donald Trump will lose part of the part of the Republican vote, he would also gain in the independent vote. So it's really just it matters on who can better appeal to the independent voters and who can retain their base and the Republican Party. And John Kasich would need to retain most of the Democratic voters and take over some Republican voters. And Donald Trump, I don't think he would be able to flip any Democratic voters, but I think he'd need to expand more on the independent voters than he did in 2016. So I'm going to actually do them in shades. I just realized we have shades here. So solid blue states are solid Kasich states, and solid red states are solid Trump states. So I don't really think Kasich could do well in any of the solid red states, because I do think Donald Trump would easily win if he ran as a Democrat. Arizona, I don't think that one would become close. Alaska, I'm going to leave that one untouched. Hawaii, I think will go to Kasich. I think New Mexico will narrowly go to John Kasich, but I think Colorado would go to Kasich as well, just based off John Kasich's stances, and compared to President Trump, I think he would win there. In Illinois, Kasich would win their 20 electoral votes, probably just because he is a Democrat and they do vote down ballot. And in these key states, I think a lot of Democratic voters would be really upset that Kasich is the nominee, but I do think they would come out to vote for him. In these key states, I don't think it'll help him in some swing states like Nevada or swing states like Florida, but we'll see. New Hampshire, I definitely see going to John Kasich. I can't fix Maine up here. I would give one electoral vote to Donald Trump and take one away from John Kasich, but for now I can't, just based off where the map is, and just the ABC map in general doesn't really work that way. And Kentucky, I think, will go to President Trump, along with all the southern states. I don't really see there being much competition there. Missouri, I don't really see competition. Georgia, you see, Kasich would probably peel away a lot of the Republican vote, but then again, he is a Democrat, so that one really could hurt him there. In West Virginia, that one's solid red, especially in this case. Missouri would be solid red, and Indiana could get a lot closer than it did in 2016. So But yeah, I'm going to fill in all the states now that are solid for President Trump. I don't think necessarily that Texas would be solid, but I don't think it'll be super close. I think they should have made 3 shades, but this one's a little bit better, I guess. South Carolina would probably put in the close column, but actually I think Trump would just take that outright. The reasoning behind Indiana and Missouri, I think that Kasich could peel off some of the conservative voters here that dislike Donald Trump now, based on where his approval rating is in Missouri now, and Indiana. I think he could take some of those voters that voted for Ted Cruz in the primary. Ohio, I definitely see going to Kasich, but I do think it'll be a small victory. The reason behind that, even though it is his home state, Donald Trump did win it by 9%, and Kasich did win the primary. Can you imagine if John Kasich was the nominee, and what percentage he would have won in Ohio? Would probably be double digits, to be completely honest. Nevada, you see, that one I'm going to narrowly give to President Trump. I do not think John Kasich is the person to rally the Bernie Sanders voters there and the Latino voters there enough to win over Donald Trump. And I don't think that the Republican Party is that split in Nevada at this moment. Alaska, I also think would narrowly go to President Trump because I do think a lot of those Ted Cruz voters will suck it up and vote for John Kasich like a lot of them did for Barack Obama in states like Indiana, Missouri, Montana, Mississippi, North and South Dakota, states like that. They just sucked it up and voted for the other candidate even though he was a Democrat. This time I think they would do that, but I don't think it would be enough to flip the state because Alaska is very anti-Trump. Based off primary results. But then again, it did vote for Trump overwhelmingly, but I do think it could be close just because Kasich is a conservative member, and he is a conservative from the Democratic Party. And in this case, I do think that he would hold on to Virginia, though. I do think he would be able to win the state of Virginia narrowly just by winning a lot of the Clinton voters. I think they would not want Trump to be in office, and I don't think Clinton voters would vote third party. But I do think he will lose some of the Clinton voters, but I also think he'll gain in independents, and independents have a huge presence in Virginia, and they ultimately decided the state for Hillary Clinton. Minnesota, I easily see that one going to John Kasich. The Republican Party is not full-fledged supporting Donald Trump. If they did, then Donald Trump probably would have won the state against Hillary Clinton, but he didn't. But I do think that one would be close. Along with that, I think Trump will narrowly hold on to New Hampshire, but I think he'll solidly win in Georgia. I didn't want to go to Georgia just yet because I was thinking about all the conservative voters that were turned off by Donald Trump, but I don't think they'll vote for the Democratic Party. I mean, some of them just didn't vote or just voted for Hillary Clinton. I don't think John Kasich is the guy to do that because I don't think John Kasich is that alternative solution. Personally, I just think that Donald Trump would win the state over 5%. Which is why it's solid red. That's what I consider solid. In Florida, I do think President Trump would narrowly win that by around maybe 1 or 2%. That's still considerable for the swing state as big as itself. But I do think Donald Trump would carry that state narrowly. In the Rust Belt, I think Kasich would sweep the Rust Belt, putting him at the presidency, but I do think that he would sweep the Rust Belt by narrow margins. The reasoning behind it is he's from Ohio, so he's technically from the Rust Belt. He's able to appeal to the white working class better than President Trump. Hear me out on this one before you say that Donald Trump has the businessman appeal. Sure, he has the businessman appeal, but John Kasich has that rational thinking appeal that Hillary Clinton did have, but then she lost all her voters with scandals behind her. John Kasich, I think, even though he would turn off the Democratic Party there, I mean, a lot of the Clinton voters would probably stay with him. I think Kasich could pick up more of the independent vote. Bernie Sanders voters were turned off by Hillary Clinton and didn't come out to vote for her. She lost the states. She also lost the independent vote. I think John Kasich could win the independent vote, afford to lose the Bernie Sanders vote, and retain onto some of those Democratic votes enough to win all 3 states. And in Iowa, I think Donald Trump would narrowly win the state of Iowa, putting him at 247 and John Kasich at 291. I would give him D.C., but I think I added D.C. over here. Yeah, so I give him 291 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 247. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you all tomorrow.